Appendix 1. Sa Upadhisesa and Anupadhisesa. Some scholars interpret passages in the Anguttara Nikaya, which classify enlightened beings into two kinds, i.e. Sa Upadhisesa Pugala, Seka, stream enterers, once returners, and non-returners, who are still subject to grasping and defilement, and Anupadhisesa Pugala, Aseka Arahants, who are freed from grasping and defilement. By translating Upadi as Upadana, grasping, and thus define the two kinds of Nibbana this way. 1. Sa Upadhisesa Nibbana Dhatu, Nibbana with grasping remaining, or Nibbana of those with latent defilement, i.e. Nibbana of stream enterers, once returners, and non-returners. 2. Anupadhisesa Nibbana Dhatu, Nibbana with no grasping or remaining, or Nibbana of those freed from grasping, i.e. Nibbana of Arahants. Translating this way springs from our confusion between states, bhava, i.e. Sa Upadhisesa Nibbana and Anupadhisesa Nibbana, and persons, Pugala, i.e. Sa Upadhisesa Pugala and Anupadhisesa Pugala. The two kinds of Nibbana describe the relationship between Nibbana and awakened beings. The two persons describe the attributes of those in contact with Nibbana. To avoid confusion, these two pairs should be clearly distinguished. The distinguishing word in this case is Upadi, which has a different meaning when referring to either Nibbana or to enlightened beings. Note, however, that some commentarial passages reinforce this misunderstanding that Sa Upadhisesa Nibbana is the Nibbana of Sa Upadhisesa Pugala. A clear development of the meanings of the two terms Sa Upadhisesa Nibbana and Anupadhisesa Nibbana, stressing an activity or event, is the establishment of the terms Kilesa Parinibbana and Khandha Parinibbana. The former corresponds to Sa Upadhisesa Nibbana, while the latter corresponds to Anupadhisesa Nibbana. Despite the frequent use of these terms in this way, the commentators and sub-commentators were well aware of the meaning of Sa Upadhisesa Nibbana as denoting the quality of a state. As can be seen by these examples, the Buddha abided in the Nibbana element with remainder, conducting his life for the benefit of all beings, faring well in this world until he attained the Nibbana element without remainder. With the fruit of arahantship, the Arahants were completely dispassionate, abiding in the Nibbana element with remainder, wise, diligent all day and night, with the end of their last mind. They attain the Nibbana element without remainder with their final passing. Appendix 2. BUDDHADHAMMA and Samparayika. As noun forms, BUDDHADHAMMA and Samparayika exist as BUDDHADHAMMA and Samparaya respectively. These four words are used extensively, both in the Pali Canon and in the commentaries, and generally we have the meaning of present or this life on the one hand, and future next life or next world on the other. It compounds with Attadidadami kata, present welfare, and Samparayika kata, future welfare, are especially familiar to scholars. Later in the commentaries, one occasionally finds paramata, supreme welfare, included to form a triad. In the original scriptures, however, one only finds the pair of Ditthadhammi kata and Samparayikata. In this context, Samparayikata refers to the welfare that surpasses or transcends that of Ditthadhammi kata, and includes the definition of paramata. Paramata was originally used on its own as a synonym for Nibbana. In later contexts, the definition of Samparayikata was narrowed to mean future welfare of the next world, or heavenly, which was a welfare below the supreme that is not yet of Nibbana. An example of Samparayikata being used in its original context is the story of the old Brahmin Brahmayu who visited the Buddha. Then the Brahmin Brahmayu thought, "Permission has been granted me by the recluse Gotama. Which should I ask him about, good in this life or the supreme good?" Then he thought, "I am skilled in the good of this life, and others too ask me about good in this life. Why shouldn't I ask him only about the supreme good?" Then he addressed the Blessed One in stanzas. How does one become a Brahmin? And how does one attain knowledge? How has one the triple knowledge? And how does one become a holy scholar? How does one become an arahant? And how does one attain completeness? How is one a silent sage? And how can one be called a Buddha? In its original sense, Samparayika too encompasses the meaning of paramata as seen in the Kana Katala, where King Pasenadi asks the Buddha about the distinction between members of the four castes. The Buddha replied that, concerning the present life, nobles and Brahmins are held to be superior since people pay homage to them. But concerning a person's spiritual attainments, caste plays no role. Here only the quality of a person's effort is important. As the Buddha claimed there is no difference between that achieved by members of various social classes. Similarly, in the Mahanidesa, one sees two benefits, mundane and transcendent, from personal beliefs. What is the mundane benefit stemming from belief? Here, whatever is the doctrine of the teacher, the disciples share this doctrine. They honor, respect, worship, and hold in awe the teacher of this doctrine. And as a consequence, they receive robes, alms food, lodgings, and medicine. And what is the transcendent benefit stemming from belief? Those disciples wish for the future. May this doctrine lead to birth as a Naga, Garuda, as Indra, Brahma, or as a god. This doctrine is sufficient for purity and deliverance. This view leads to purity and deliverance. The commentators tended to restrict the definitions Ditthadhamika, referring to this existence and life, and Samparayika, referring to the next life or world. Some commentaries on the two elements of Nibbana use these same restricted definitions, i.e. BUDDHADHAMMA meaning in this life, and Samparayika meaning in the future or after death. Appendix 3, Final Mind. Karima Chitta, Karimaka Chitta, Karima Vinyana, and Karimaka Vinyana all mean the same thing, that is, last mind, final consciousness, or more explicitly, last mind in existence. It refers to the passing away, kuti, of an arahant's mind, also called Parinibbana Chitta. It is the mind of an arahant at death, or the mind at the moment of final passing. The term Karima Vinyana is first used in the Kulani Disesa, a secondary text of the Pitaka, for example. At the final passing of an arahant attaining the Nibbana element without remainder due to the cessation of final consciousness, right here wisdom and mindfulness, materiality and mentality also cease. They are stilled, made tranquil, and no longer established. In the commentaries, the terms Karima Vinyana and Karima Chitta are frequently used. They sometimes associate Karima Chitta with attainment of the Nibbana element, the Nibbana element without remainder. Equally, they associate the attainment of or initial abiding in Saupadhisesa Nibbana with the fruit of arahantship. Note that many Thai editions, Karima Chitta and Karima Vinyana, are printed as Purima Chitta and Purima Vinyana, preceding mind consciousness. Examples of such inconsistency include canonical texts that use Purima and the explanatory commentarial text that uses Karima or passage in one volume, using one term and the identical passage in another volume. The evidence, however, confirms that the correct term is Karima. Appendix 4, Attaining Nibbana. I have occasionally used the expression attaining Nibbana because it is familiar and easy to understand, although the term that is more accurate or specific to this context is Sachikiriya. Its verb form is Sachikaroti. Later texts sometimes use Sachikarana, which literally means realization. The commentaries explain it as to experience or see clearly for oneself. Although attaining Nibbana may be more convenient, using realizing Nibbana probably has less risk of misunderstanding. Attainment is closer to the Pali words adhigama, verb adhigachati, and pati, past particle used with Nibbana pata. Both of these words are frequently used but in secondary contexts and usually in verses. The following words used with Nibbana are scattered throughout the scriptures and are mainly used in verse. Aradeti, attain, accomplish. Pusati, reach, touch. Gachati, arrive at, and labati, obtain. Appendix 5, Anupada, Parinibbana. MA 2 155 states that Anupada Parinibbana equals Apacchaya Parinibbana, complete unconditioned Nibbana, and the Majjhima Nikaya Tika states that Apacchaya Parinibbana equals Anupadisesa Parinibbana. It follows therefore that Anupadisesa Parinibbana is identical to both Anupada Parinibbana and Apacchaya Parinibbana, i.e. identical to the essential nature of Nibbana, as discussed earlier in this chapter. DHA 1 286, ITA 1 170 and BVA 227 substitute the term Anupada Parinibbana for Anupadisesa Parinibbana. Anupada Parinibbana is an important term denoting Nibbana. It always stands on its own and is often used to express the goal of Buddhism. Example, Bhikkhu. The Dhamma is taught by me for the sake of final Nibbana without fuel, and it is for the sake of final Nibbana without fuel that the holy life is lived under the Blessed One. The commentaries generally define Anupada Parinibbana as Apacchaya Parinibbana, the unconditioned, i.e. not conditioned by any fuel, which can be realized in this very life. Some teachers claim that Anupada Parinibbana translate as final Nibbana without clinging, Upadana, referring to the fruit of arahantship, but the commentators reject this opinion. Furthermore, the Vimutti Magga, composed by Upatissa before Buddhaghosa composed the Visuddhi Magga, Nisarana Vimutti as Anupadisesa Parinibbana. Interestingly, this opinion conforms to the meaning expressed above. See the following discussion on deliverance.